It has been 10,011 days since Scotland last appeared at a World Cup. On Tuesday, the 23rd of June 1998, the national team were defeated 3-0 by Morocco in Saint Etienne, and we were knocked out of France 1998 with just 1 point. We'll be back, we said in defiance. We'll see the next one. But we never did come back. There was no next one. And since then, a lot has happened. We saw the rise and fall of the Millennium Bug, the launch of the euro currency, hijacked jetliners flown into the World Trade Center buildings, which would change geopolitics forever. Concorde's final commercial flight, no connection with the last point. The Boxing Day tsunami in the Indian Ocean that killed around 230,000 people. The execution of Saddam Hussein. The completion of the Large Hadron Collider. Again, no connection between the two of those. The death and rebirth of Rangers. The Scottish independence referendum. Brexit. Donald Trump's election as the 45th President of the United States of America. The global COVID-19 pandemic. The death of Queen Elizabeth II. Yes, the world has changed irrevocably since that hot summer's night at the Stade Geoffrey Guichard. But, after Tuesday night's stunning 4-2 victory over Denmark, Scotland have topped their qualifying group, and we will be heading to the World Cup next summer in the USA, Canada and Mexico. It was simply the most incredible game of football I have ever been to, with some of the most astonishing goals I've ever seen. Scott McTominay opened the scoring for Scotland with an overhead kick after just 3 minutes, but Rasmus Højlund drew the sides level from the penalty spot just before the hour mark. Rasmus Christensen was sent off shortly afterwards after collecting 2 bookings, and although Lauren Shanklin put Scotland back in front, Patrick Dorgo equalised immediately afterwards. The game appeared to be heading towards stalemate. Scotland appeared to be heading into the playoffs, but Kieran Tierney scored a beautifully taken goal in the 3rd minute of injury time. And then Kenny McLean sealed the victory with a jaw-dropping lob from the halfway line in the 98th minute. Simply extraordinary. Scotland 4, Denmark 2. We are going to the 2026 World Cup. And joining me to talk about the most extraordinary game of football, it is my close associate, Shaughan McGuigan.
Hello there, you okay?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, man. It was that was extraordinary last night, and it feels a genuine privilege to get the chance to talk about what's, I'm going to imagine, a podcast that a lot of people are looking forward to, and I get to talk to it with you. We were both at the game last night. We will cover every single second of match action from the match. But Shaughan, first of all, how are you feeling?
Do you know what? It felt like you used the word privilege there. It felt like a privilege to be there.
Yeah.
Maybe the first 70 minutes wasn't the best game. It was just stressful. It was a stressful first kind of 75 minutes. The end, the last kind of 15, 20 minutes. My goodness. I mean, that might be the most extraordinary finale to a game that I've certainly ever attended. And I think what makes Tuesday night so, I suppose, extra special, I suppose, is see when we kind of trot out the Scotland national team, their greatest moments or their highlights. It very much has moments. So it's maybe like Archie Gemmill scoring against the Dutch in 1978. Great. But see, at full time, we're still out the tournament. Or it's Lee Griffiths scoring 2 free kicks against England. Yeah. Brilliant. But England went up the park and scored. Or broadening it out, McFadden's goal against France. Incredible. Still didn't qualify for that tournament. But what Tuesday night did was we had the amazing goals. We had the winning kind of do or die game. And then we had the end result that we wanted, which was actually that there was something tangible at the end, which was 90 minutes on Tuesday, all those incredible things, but the one of just fleeting moments in a campaign that was ultimately fruitless. It was incredible moments that got us to a World Cup, and that's what made Tuesday night so special. It was incredible.
I couldn't have put it better myself. It was just from Hampden was special. Hampden was very special last night. I think I've been quite critical of the Scotland support post Euro 2024 qualifiers. I think there's times where it's been quite flat. It can be a bit, we're waiting for something to happen, and likewise the players are needing something from the crowd to jag them into the action. We got all of that last night. The crowd were absolutely fantastic. and the players responded very well to the crowd. It was the perfect gyre of noise and entertainment. And I think what made last night so special as well, you can't have pleasure without pain. You know, you have to suffer. You have to suffer for good stuff. And my goodness, we suffered. I think that match was, I'm not going to say you couldn't script it, because you very well much could have scripted it. But in terms of, you want the beats to go through in the match, the moments of suffering, the moments where you think you've come back into it, the moments where those moments get taken away from you. And then for it to be wrapped up with two world-class goals at the end of the game, it was just a perfect game of football, summed up where I think the fireworks went off before the final whistle was blown. I think they had been saved, they'd been purchased, and they had been saved in the event of Scotland getting to the World Cup. But you know, when Kenny McLean's goal hit the back of the net, I think that's us. You can just stick them on just now. On you go. And it felt, had that been a mistake, I don't know, I don't care. But it added to the atmosphere. Seeing we saw a couple of nights ago when Republic of Ireland beat Hungary 3-2 to go to the playoffs. It's an incredible moment from Troy Parrott to score that hat-trick and to score the goal in such dramatic circumstances. But seeing the entire bench, all the substitutes, empty and pile on top of each other, to actually see that, I can't think of a moment that Scotland have had like that. And to see everyone, even someone is quite dour and is quite just never seems to get carried away, never seems to get upset, Steve Clarke, for him to lose his head in the moment. It's just seeing all that, and then add in thousands of people around you all experiencing the same emotion. Just extraordinary stuff, man. Absolutely extraordinary.
Yeah, you're right in terms of when the bench emptied, I was like, oh, this is really cool. I've seen this loads of times before, but I haven't seen it for us. So that felt really cool. And you're right, there's a real, there was a few times where, certainly when, I think he cuddled Kieran Tierney when he made it 3-2, and then at 4-2, Steve Clarke, again, kind of obviously looked chuffed. And then post-match, it very much just looked like you're all having a great time. And I think if Steve Clarke is having a good time, you know something really, really good has happened. And that's exactly what happened.
That's exactly what happened. We'll break it down, Shaughan, because there's so many elements to this game to talk about. So we might as well talk about them all. I think this is a good thing about doing a podcast. We can talk about our experiences of the game, because I'm sure people listening will have gone through the similar journeys to that you and I have gone through. They'll have seen the same things as you and I did, and we can talk about the game and so on. But we'll jump back to Sunday night, if we may. You and I were in the pub together with Robert Borthwick, Tony Anderson, a couple of other associates, and what was your feeling after the match? Scotland had lost that game 3-2 against Greece. Desperately poor first hour, promising final half hour when they rallied, but completely recontextualised by the fact that Denmark had dropped points at home to Belarus, setting this up, this do or die encounter up. So what was your feeling on Saturday, more likely Sunday morning? I know we'd put away a fair bit on the Saturday. So when the cloud had settled, how were you feeling on the build-up to this game?
I was more confident, even though we lost on Saturday. I was actually more confident about this game. I always had the impression that the Denmark game would take care of itself, and I know it wasn't quite that easy. There was several layers to the Denmark game, but I thought if we could take it to the Denmark game, we would qualify. And even though we got beat by Greece, the fact that Denmark had that bizarre 2-2 draw with Belarus, it almost felt like, despite losing to Greece, somehow we had the momentum. I really felt that. Put yourself in the Danish shoes. They have a home game against Belarus that ultimately a win would qualify them straight into the World Cup. Tuesday would have become a dead rubber. Their mindset must have been kind of all over the place. So I actually felt after Saturday that regardless of the fact that we'd lost to Greece, that we had the momentum, and especially because, as you mentioned, we were certainly terrible for that first half hour. Had kind of rallied for the last 10 minutes of the first half, ended up 3-0 down anyway, but then still could have won. So I think almost how we lost that game also helped that kind of switch in momentum. I mean, that's how I felt.
I know what you mean.
Maybe the players didn't feel that, but that's certainly how I felt in a pub in Glasgow after 10 pints.
as I said to Tony when we recorded the podcast on Sunday morning, I think it was easy to maybe be impressed by Scotland's performance when they came back into it because the state of the game had changed. You know, you've gone to 3-0 down. So obviously the team Greece, they're not necessarily going to be trying so hard. It was ultimately a dead rubber for them. Once they've taken a 3-goal lead, what's the impetus for them to go and try and get a fourth or a fifth? Not much. So for us to come back into it, I was thinking, yeah, that's good, but it wasn't in the most pressing circumstances. Nevertheless, I remember sitting with flash score up and a couple of people around me, and we were watching the seconds tick by on the app for the Denmark game to finish. And I think when that had drawn and we were given that second chance, that completely unexpected second chance for qualification, I don't know, I just felt, I think we're going to do it. And I'd talked myself up for the next couple of days thinking that we're going to do it. On the Tuesday morning before the match, it's a daft custom that I've got on social media, but it's posting a clip of Big Country performing in a Big Country live on the Tube. I think it's from 1984. And I think it's one of the best songs that's ever been written by a Scottish group, and it means a lot to me. And I put it up and was listening to it, and I'm sitting at my desk at work and actually tears in my eyes, like just thinking, by God, this is the first time I've listened to this in ages. We've got this big game tonight. It just felt everything was coming together, and I don't know if it's just a spiritual thing or the fact I'm just generally quite an optimistic person when it comes to Scotland. It just felt that it was all trending in a very positive direction, and I was positive that we were going to get a result tonight, despite the fact that the evidence was all pointing in the contrary. The fact that we hadn't done well against Greece at home, that we're even worse against Belarus, that we lost against Greece. But that's getting that second chance. And then a couple of days later, listening to Big Country, I was like, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
It's funny when because I had to work until about 3:30 on Tuesday. So I was quite tight for time in terms of getting to, I worked from home. So I was quite tight for time in terms of getting through and getting to Hampden. So I was like, right, I've got loads to do today. Need to get everything out of the way. I hadn't really looked at my phone. I was just like, right, let's just get through all of this nonsense. And I looked at my phone at whatever time it was, like back at 11 or 12 o'clock. And I kind of went on to Twitter and I'd seen your post about please be upstanding for the national anthem. And I actually got goosebumps because I was like, actually, there is a massive thing occurring tonight and I cannot wait for it. And it's so exciting. But no, you're right. In terms of the song, tremendous. But you're right. There is something about, like, we have carried good fortune through this qualifying campaign.
Oh, very much so.
And I think that Belarus result against the Danes was a massive stroke of luck. And I think we'd all discussed it on Saturday. You mentioned it on the podcast about the Greece game as well. It just felt like to get such a massive stroke of good fortune, surely we can make that count. Mm-hmm. And that's ultimately how it panned out.
I was working for the Scottish FA Business Club, as I've been doing for the last couple of years, and I was in high spirits going into the Football Museum where the event's hosted. But our guest for that day was Jim Leighton. And Jim Leighton, just extraordinary career, just in terms of the highs that he's experienced and some of the lows as well that he's gone through, particularly, it badly affected him. It's well known, being dropped for the FA Cup final replay for Manchester United. And I think that really set his career back a number of years and he had to basically rebuild it from there. Nevertheless, I was speaking to him about what it's like to represent Scotland at a World Cup. And he was talking about the stories of Craig Brown. And I think there's players who were part of Craig Brown's team. They all speak so fondly of him and the efforts that he went to galvanise the squad and to foster that team spirit. He was talking about, there was an event that was arranged inside the stadium at Paris prior to the tournament kicking off for the Scotland players to come and for their families to come and everyone just get together. And while they're all there, the Brazil players were there as well. And Jim Leighton was talking about his kids getting their pictures taken with like Roberto Carlos and Ronaldo and Romario, and just saying that it was absolutely an amazing experience for them. And he was talking, his kids were on the phone, he was in this hotel. He was talking about what it was like to play for Scotland at a World Cup, because he'd done it a number of times, played 82, 1986, 1990 and 98 as well. I might be wrong. Certainly he was at those tournaments, and just what it's like to be there. And he says it's time management's the big thing. A lot of people don't appreciate how much free time you have, and the stuff you're not allowed to. Says you're not allowed to sunbathe, you're not allowed to play tennis, you're not allowed to go out golfing in case you hurt yourself or the sunstroke gets to you and it affects your performance. But he was saying he was in his bed and he was kind of just zoning out and just trying to focus on the game, and he got a phone call from his kids who had been on the Champs-Elysees that day, and just saying what an amazing experience it was. He was talking about how he was nearly welling up listening to his kids talking about how great it was, and just hearing his experience of just being, not necessarily playing at the tournament, because that tournament wasn't fantastic for Scotland, particularly that final game against Morocco, but just what it was like to beat the tournament. I was just thinking, this is amazing. All the stuff you're saying, if I'm here, you can't see what I'm doing with my hand, but if I'm here, Jim, you have taken me up even higher. And the business club is a great. I love working there, and it's always such a good atmosphere. But it just felt febrile there. Everyone was. Even there's some people there who are quite like pessimistic, like, oh, I've seen this movie before, like those kind of guys. But everyone there was like super confident, thinking, yeah, I think we can do it. I think we can do it.
I wonder if, in terms of that event that Craig Brown had organised, I wonder if the Brazilian players talk about the fact that their children got a chance to get a picture taken with Jim Leighton. I wonder if it's reciprocated.
There could be, I don't know. Aldair's kids, I've probably got a picture with Jim Leighton, and they probably still talk about very fondly. What was your build up to the game like? Once you got into Glasgow?
I got trained in. I arrived in Glasgow it was like a kind of back of 5, and literally kind of went to Cairns, dumped my bag, and then we just got the subway out to, is it North Street?
Bridge
Street. So I'd always get it wrong, and then kind of walked for there. But I think, like you, I'd very much convinced myself that we would be fine. So I was, I wouldn't say I was always an optimist, but I was quietly confident. But I thought there was an air of confidence going into the game, not just from myself, but from the kind of crowd at large. And then I suppose in terms of, I think what helped was, I think we needed to start on the front foot, and I think we needed to get the first goal. And I think because we scored so early, I think that maybe alleviated a lot. If anybody was concerned, if anybody was nervous, that kind of alleviated those concerns of the fact that we scored so early.
Yeah, I was thinking even prior to the match kicking off, I mentioned how good the atmosphere was in Hampden, and I took my seat in the stand. I was sitting in the south stand, took it about 1:45, and Graham Easton, the stadium announcer, was reading through the team lines, and it was to the music from like the opening chords from Born Slippy by Underworld, and there's just something about that piece of music is just so evocative to me. And I remember at one point, this will sound really weird, just closing my eyes and like trying to zone out and not listen to him reading the teams and just try to listen to this piece of music. And I was like psyching myself up, like, this is like, this is brilliant. What a moment this is. Seeing so many people coming in. And then like the national anthems, I'm not a massive fan of Flower of Scotland. I think I've said that in the past. But see, they don't do it all the time, and for good reason. But see the times when they cut the music for the second verse and just let the crowd sing it proper, like, you know, the videos you see of like the Italian players when they sing the national anthem, they work themselves up into a frenzy, they're nearly in tears. That's what I was like. I've never done that before. No, but it was just so, and you know that way as well, because it was one of those nights we'd said like a rainy midweek night under the lights. Those are the kind of games that suit us. And when you see the smoke from the pyro is still not properly cleared, and the lights are down, and it's rainy and it's misty, it's just, oh man, it felt right. It felt right. And as you say, we carried that good feeling from the national anthem into the opening 3 minutes, and Scott McTominay scores certainly one of the all-time great Scotland goals. One of the all-time great Scotland goals. Maybe the best of all time.
Yeah. No, I think you might be right. Like I've said, I find Ben Cannon-Toke quite. I mean, I love him because he's quick and he's he can drag Scotland up the park and he can beat a man and he can get a ball into the area. But it's that last one, it's that last point about getting the ball into the area. It feels like that's the kind of missing piece from his game. So I have been critical of his final kind of product, I suppose. But his ball into the box was absolutely perfect. And there's, like, in terms of technique, I don't know if you'll see a better overhead kick. Like, unless it's from further out. But in terms of technique, it was absolutely perfect. He put laces through it. Mm-hmm. I think he must have been the boot that connected with the ball must have been 8 foot high, maybe. It was just a perfect goal. And it was, I think when he goes to play, I think, see, in terms of when he makes that move to do the overhead kick, mm-hmm. there's a noise in Hampden. I didn't notice it at the time, but I was only like kind of watching it back. There's a weird noise in Hampden, as if to say, he's not doing that, is he? Like, I know it's weird that a noise could suggest that sentence, but I think that's what the noise means. And then just the kind of outpouring of hysteria when the ball hits the back of the net. It's incredible.
Aye. It's so audacious. And you think, if you're imagining the kind of players in Scotland that could score an overhead kick, I think he's the only player. Maybe Lyndon Dykes. You'd actually maybe fancy Lyndon Dykes to give it a go. But Scott McTominay is one of the very few players you can imagine doing something like that. The connection that he makes as well, because he connects it perfectly, it's going straight at Kasper Schmeichel. The way he connects with it, though, he somehow manages to place it perfectly into the bottom corner. Like, he's no chance. He's diving at full stretch to try and reach that. He's got absolutely no chance to get it. And just the still image, the photograph that was posted on the FIFA Twitter account earlier today,
perfect.
Just, it's the perfect image. Him just hanging in the air, connecting with that ball. And you try to think of like the great Scotland goals of the past, like Archie Gemmell's. I think Archie Gemmell's has been usurped. You'd never thought you'd say that. That's maybe the best goal of all time. Counted for nothing. The goals here counted, as you say, the goals here counted for something. And the image of him just sort of running over, just doing the calm down gesture. It's like you've just scored one of the best goals of all time. Don't tell me to be calm. Sitting in front of me as well was Judith Ralston, Greg Hemphill, and his
Judith
wife.
Ralston was just behind me. It must be like me, Judith Ralston, and then you.
Right, you must have been sitting really close to one another then. I didn't notice. But just when the goal went in, I just kind of remember like Miss Hooley sort of like just like grandma and just goes like, I can't do the voice because I was so excited about it. Just kind of like like some sort of like chimpanzee that started 28 days later, just screeching and just touching people. And you've got that, it's an incredible feeling. You can't describe it when your team's just scored. Like, your team scored a goal is a brilliant feeling, but when they score something as audacious and unexpected as that, just extraordinary. And you're like high-fiving Judith Ralston, and you're grabbing Greg Hemphill in the back and all these other people around you. It was remarkable. And it's just an incredible moment. And just even speaking about it now, I'm getting goosebumps. However, it did not lead to Scotland taking control of that game. And I think after about 5 minutes within that ball hitting the back of the net, I thought, this is what we want to see from Scotland. This is us really taking the game to Denmark and really doing something we don't do very often, and that's attacked them with purpose. But 5 minutes after that ball went in, very much one-way traffic from that point on.
I mean, I suppose in terms of maybe factors for that, like in terms of things that maybe Scotland were up against. So I was, despite being Grant Hanley's, but not that I'm saying this was an issue actually, because he was fine. But I suppose in terms of things that went against us, Suter kind of pulled. I think he pulled up in the warm-up.
Yeah,
he maybe got an injury, so Grant Hanley had to come in. Fine. But I think there might have been I was concerned because of how poor he'd been on the Saturday. But ultimately, it was fine. But I suppose like 15 minutes after the game starts, then Gannon Doak goes down injured. And I actually thought it was Hickey.
Yeah,
at the
me
time.
too. I thought it was the same as well.
And I was really concerned. I was like, oh, geez, Hickey's just come back.
You fucking sick note.
could be out for a long time here. And I was like, actually, it's Gannon Doak. I was like, oh, thank goodness it's not Hickey. But then I was like, oh, well, actually, wait a minute. Like, Gannon Doak is the only player we have that has pace. He's probably one of the few players that can get us up the park. So that's not ideal either. So I agree that between the 5th minute and the 60th, 70th minute, we didn't have too much kind of impetus in the game whatsoever. But I do think, especially Gannon Doak going off injured had a huge impact on how we could kind of get at the Danes, I suppose. But we're certainly second best. You're absolutely right.
I think so. It's how we could get at the Danes, and then how the Danes could contain us. Because when you look through that Scotland team, not a lot of fast players in there. In fact, I don't think there's anyone that's fast. Maybe say Andy Robertson previously, but he's on the wane a wee bit, not quite the whippet that he once was. And I think the entire Denmark team were able to take maybe a step forward 15 yards and really take the game to Scotland. It's like, well, if you're going to try and play over the top of us, don't bother, because we'll be able to outpace and outrun you. And I think that's what allowed them to really go in the front foot. There was a couple of chances that they had. There was one in particular during that spell. God, I mean, say during that spell, it was almost like a 35-minute spell, but as they had a couple of balls going across. There was one that went across the face of goal. Like it came in from the left-hand side, went right across the face goal. Might have been Dorgu that put it in. I can't quite remember. But that was dangerous. And there was a number of times where the goal didn't lead a charmed life, because I think a lot of Denmark's shooting, particularly from distance, they were really poor with their long-range shooting. It was all shots that were over the bar. But there was times where I thought we were a wee bitty slow in getting out to them. And I thought that we had a wee bitty trouble trying to contain Gustav Cisiksen on the right. I thought he was maybe Denmark's most dangerous player. But it was because we weren't able to get out. You expect the game to ebb and flow, and you expect the injury to spook us. I thought that sucked the energy out of the crowd a bit. That sucked the energy out of the crowd. There was a visible thing. The stuff we were saying about our probably greatest attacking threat being taken out of the team, it was like, right, well, what we going to do now? Yeah. And I think that when we were trying to figure out and just trying to gather ourselves, I think even the players on the pitch were trying to do that. And, you know, that necessitated a reshuffle. Kenny McLean coming on for Gannon Doak, Christie going out wide to sort of playing that wide attacking midfield position that he's previously filled in before he's been reconfigured to a centre midfielder at Bournemouth. And
which doesn't suit him. I don't think that suits him at all.
But the midfield position?
Going wide. I don't think that's his. Yeah.
No, I don't think it worked. And I think that we were quite easy to... Certainly not as easy to play through as Greece found it. Remember Greece looking particularly slick, but certainly they had a lot more of the ball, just not quite as ruthless with it as the Greeks were on Saturday night.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, certainly at the time, I think because it's happening at the time, and because you're at the game, you're tense and you're no touching the ball, like the Danes just control possession. So you're like, geez, we're really up against it here. But see, watching the game back, you're right. And see, in terms of when they're having shots at goal, it was for distance. Their attempts from distance were really poor. Craig Gordon didn't really have that much to do. I think he maybe had a save down to his right at the start of the second half, certainly before the penalty. Other than that, you're right. He had a far, far quieter game than he did on Saturday. So as much as at the time I was like, my goodness, I'm really fed up with the fact that we're not touching the ball. We kind of probably defended. Arguably, you could say that we defended okay, maybe.
Yeah, the big change coming in we forgot to mention the two changes that Steve Clarke made from the Greece game. It was supposed to be Scott McKenna coming in for Grant Hanley, but because of John Souttar's injury, ultimately Scott McKenna came in for John Souttar. He reconfigured the centre of defence, and Lyndon Dykes came on for Shea Adams. What did you make of those changes, and what do you think of their performances from McKenna and from Dykes?
I thought McKenna was... I thought the two centre-halves were both perfectly adequate. I didn't think they'd really done anything wrong whatsoever. I think Hanley might have blocked a shot with his bum cheek and about the 91st minute before we scored the third, which was a wee bit of a nuisance. But no, regardless, I thought centre-halves were absolutely fine. In terms of up top, I like Lyndon Dykes, but what I want to see is him. It feels like he brings that kind of chaos factor, like maybe ruffling up centre halves or giving them a challenge that they might not normally come up against on a Saturday. But I didn't really think he'd done that. I'm not saying the game bypassed him, because to be fair, we didn't have a lot of the ball, so therefore it's hard to get the ball up to your forward if you're not really have any possession. But no, I thought he was quiet.
I thought the impression I got from Lennon Dykes, I thought he had a couple of nice early touches.
Mm-hmm.
I say a couple of nice early touches early on when he was playing that back to goal role and bringing other people into play and just noising up the defenders. It's quite clear though that he's not a 90 minutes man these days, and I think it was even about, in fact, I actually remember at the start of the second half, right on in the second half, he had to chase someone down. I think, oh geez, he looks a wee bit tired there. It's like, what were you doing in the changing room, sir? And when he's not on it, you ever seen like a bucking bronco machine when there's no one on it and the thing just kind of flops around just inside this big inflatable ring? He was a wee bit like that. I actually thought he was all right, but I appreciate other people didn't particularly rate his performance. But then there was a lot of the time when we were trying to clear the ball and repel the Danish attacks, we were trying to play our way out of trouble. I think that was a sticky bit. There was times, and I can see what we're doing, just trying to move the ball to a player in space. But Denmark were really good at closing down those passing lanes and keeping the foot in the gas. And the times that we did try to go long, there were some times where I didn't think Dykes was able to affect the game as much. And even when he did win a flick or something, there was no one else really around him to feed off it. I wondered going in at half time if there should have been a tactical change. There was talk certainly about maybe moving to a back three, bringing Kieran Tierney on a wee bit earlier and allowing Robertson and Hickey to play in wing-back roles. Is that something you'd expected to see at the interval?
No, I didn't necessarily expect to see that. I don't think Clarke is necessarily, I don't know if reactionary is the right word, but I didn't expect them to make changes at the interval. I was hoping then maybe some kind of galvanising team talk to maybe get us on the front foot, but no, I didn't necessarily expect us to make changes. It is interesting though that we made changes after they equalised, and maybe that is an interesting critique of Clarke, that maybe he waits until we've conceded before he makes changes. But no, I must admit, I didn't expect any changes at that half time.
I thought that we might have gone, maybe brought Adams on, maybe I've brought Tierney on, go 3-5-2, really tried to press the game. But when the game started, when the second half started the way the first half finished, with Denmark very much in the front foot, and with Craig Gordon, as you mentioned earlier, making a really strong save, getting down to his right to, I think it was push a header past the post, I was thinking, we're a wee bit sticky, we're riding our luck. And I did think we rode our luck on the 57th minute where Andy Robertson made a challenge. I can't quite remember who it was on. It looked like a foul at the time. I remember saying to the guy next to me, I think we've got away with one there. And then you begin to hear the murmurs in the crowd, because I'm sure you were seeing the same thing as I do, where you're sitting in the south stand at Hampden, just to either side of you got where the media desks are, and they've got monitors with Sky Sports or BBC Scotland or whatever it is playing on, and they've got replays of the goals, and you can see them moving to VAR and just the incident being replayed from different angles. I thought it was a foul, but having seen it back, I didn't think this was a penalty. I thought this was right on the edge.
So it's hard to judge, because I think Andy Robertson is on the line, which would constitute a penalty. But I think he leaves his leg in. I do think a Danish player, and you're right, I can't remember his name either, but I think a Danish player exploits the fact that Robertson has left his leg there and kind of falls over his leg rather than Robertson makes the challenge. But the weird thing is, I think a Danish player is outside the box as he starts to stumble, even though Robertson is on the line. So that doesn't really make any sense, because how could you get a penalty if Robertson's on the line? It must be a penalty. But I just think when he starts to fall, he's maybe a wee bit outside the box. So at the time I was like, that's probably a penalty. But actually I've watched the replay quite a few times now. I actually think, if I was a referee looking at that on VAR, I would maybe think it wasn't a penalty. I don't know. I don't know.
I think it was one of those ones where it's been highlighted and you can show it again from so many different angles. You can talk yourself into giving the penalty because you see it a certain way. It certainly felt like that. And big Rasmus Højlund, who I actually thought had quite a decent game. He was quite a handful for handling for McKenna with. He slaughtered it away with Vim. Then, so it's 1-1. The atmosphere's been sucked out of the crowd a little bit. Then you get the moment where big Rasmus Christensen is sent off for a second yellow card. I thought this was a shambles. I felt really bad for Christensen. John McGuigan spins him, and I don't know if Christensen hangs on to him or grabs him or anything, but John McGuigan, it's one of those fouls we see John McGuigan win loads of times where you've got that big booty and you're able to roll your marker and come away with it and sometimes go down or sometimes run away. And on that occasion, McGuigan went down. I thought that was very soft from them. But I mean, delighted obviously that it went in our favour. But if I was Christensen or I was a Danish player, Danish supporter, I'd have been livid with a big bald referee.
I was surprised at how he took the decision. He seemed to take it in reasonably good grace, because I'm the same as you. I didn't think it was a booking, and I was surprised that he got a red card. I don't know, had he maybe committed another foul before that, and maybe it was an accumulation process.
You want to see the referee? You know the referee when he does the point, 1, 2, 3. There's your yellow card.
So maybe I don't know, but certainly I thought it was soft. But the fact that he didn't really protest that much made me think that maybe it was fair enough. But certainly at the time I was screaming for it, obviously. But watching it back, I thought it was very, very, very harsh. But I honestly think that was key, because it happened so quickly after the Danes had equalised. And I think at that point, I mean, who knows how the game might have changed. But I just think the fact that it felt like they now had the momentum. The game was very much in their favour. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly they're down to 10 men and they've only had 4 or 5 minutes, and suddenly it felt like maybe it was going to swing back to us.
It felt like maybe it was going to swing back. It's maybe going to swing back. I don't think it did. There was points. I mean, the period between Christensen getting sent off and Shankland putting Scotland back in front, that was a very, very long 16, 17 minute period. There was points where, again, I'm sure you were the same. I was the same. People around me saying, who are the side that's got a man down here? Yep. There was a part in that period there where Denmark were popping the ball around and they were actually olaying from their supporters, and you can understand why Scotland looked like the team that had the disadvantage. They're the ones that were sitting in and trying to prevent the other team from breaking their structure or getting a man over or getting an overload or something like that. And we couldn't get the ball off them, which was really frustrating. And any times that we did hang on to the ball, we didn't really do anything with it. Now, McTominay's had a funny qualifying campaign, I thought, because he's ultimately scored the winning goal against Belarus in the 2-1 win, which has proven to be a massive step towards our World Cup qualification campaign. And he scored probably the greatest goal of all time at the start of this game. Other than that, though, the number of times where he would take the ball and try to gallop forward with it and then just run into cul-de-sacs and run into traffic or give the ball away, or there was passes on. I'm sure there was one moment where he had Robertson ahead of him and he just tried to dribble or take an extra touch. It's just be a bit more. I'm telling Scott McTominay what to do here, Chris. It's we do the Lower League podcast and I'm telling guys that play for Forfar and for Annan what to do. I couldn't even lace their boots. But you know what I mean? There were times where I just felt like he was trying to do too much too once. He wanted to be the superstar in those moments. And I think just hand the ball off, pass it to someone in space. You don't need to do it all on your own.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's had I would say probably a disappointing campaign, even though he scored the best goal of all time. Probably had a disappointing qualifying campaign. I think we probably stifled us from doing anything in terms of open play was Gareth Doak going off. I think at that point we then became entirely dependent on, can we create anything from set pieces or score a goal from 100 yards? And thankfully we were able to do both. But certainly in terms of doing anything, you're right. In open play, we created nothing from the the fifth minute
Sorry to jump in across there, but it feels like without the set piece or without somebody really fast that you can hit the ball long to, it feels like everyone's got to be quite methodical, and you've got to process the ball into the likes of McLean and maybe get Robertson to on the overlap, maybe get McGinn to arse his way into position. If you can't do those things, then it's just a case of trying to go long and then play from there. And I suppose that the point I missed out there was the two changes that Steve Clarke made after about 3 minutes after the red card, where Dykes and Christie were both taken off and Adams and Shankland went on. So it was a more orthodox, well, pretty much a 4-4-2 at that point, very similar to the structure that we used when we played the Danes back in Copenhagen in the first group match.
Yeah, I didn't see it at the time, so I don't know. I wonder if the two subs, so essentially going like a kind of orthodox 4-4-2, if that was based on the red card, or if he was always going to do that anyway. Like, I don't know. But just regardless, I thought it was an interesting kind of wrinkle.
What about Kieran Tierney coming on the 72nd minute? He replaced Aaron Hickey and came on and played at right back.
Thank goodness he did. Interesting that he came on at right back instead of Tony Ralston, because like Ralston came on like Ralston played on Saturday. I didn't think he was. I am not Ralston's biggest fan. I will admit that actually he's probably been okay. He's not been as bad for Scotland as is generally pointed out. I think he gets a bit of a hard time from myself as well, incidentally. But it really was interesting that Tierney came on, and I mean, my goodness, thank goodness that he did bring him on, because I don't think, with the greatest will in the world, I don't think Ralston is doing what Tierney did.
Oh, goodness me, no. I mean, if Ralston's getting onto that ball in the 93rd minute, that is going into Govan Hill.
It's going to lesser Hampden.
It's interesting. Am I right in saying that under Alex McLeish, he would use Kieran Tierney at right back? That was a period when we were really trying to figure out what we were trying to do with Robertson and Tierney in the same team.
We've definitely done it. Can't remember at what phase of the Scottish national team we've done it, but he certainly played it right back for us, yes.
And then the goal came after a lot of Danish pressure, a rare corner. Lewis Ferguson whips the ball in, and there's Shankland effectively on the goal line to poke it in to put Scotland ahead. I'll be honest, I didn't celebrate this. I didn't celebrate this. There was people around me going off their head, and we're in this age. It's something that's new to me. VAR, obviously, the level of football that you and I watch on a weekly basis, we're not used to it. The only times I've actually been for it is when I've been watching Scotland games or games at Hampden more broadly. And I was sure that there'd been a foul, that there was a Danish player lying on his backside, and the fact that Kasper Schmeichel had his big arm in there appealing for something, I thought this is going to get ruled out, so I didn't celebrate it properly. And then seeing the back in the highlights, like, what were you worried about, Craig? It was a very legitimate goal. Great ball in from Ferguson as well.
Yeah, excellent. I thought Kasper Schmeichel's starting position was very odd. Like, I suppose there is. I kind of understand why because I used to do this as well when I played in goals. So if you had a corner coming in from that side, you would stand closer to your back post because it's easier to run forward than to move backwards. So it makes sense to stand closer to your back post. But if that's going to be your starting position, you also have to have the ability to move. It kind of feels as the ball was delivered in. Kasper goes, I'd actually have to move forward here as well. But actually, because he can't move, he made a complete pig's idiot. And thankfully, that offered up the opportunity for Shankland, who was able to divert it home from whatever it is, about a yard. But Shankland now has, like that, he hasn't played a lot of minutes for Scotland, but he's now got about 4 goals. His scoring rate for us is actually quite decent, actually.
Trying to think who's got the goals against. One against San Marino, scored a really good goal against Georgia from a header, and the two each draw.
Did he score against Finland in the friendly? So that's his 4.
Okay, fair play. Well, at least 2 of them were. San Marino. Not everyone can score. I mean, like, I'm making fun of the people that score against San Marino. I'd love to score against San Marino. Kasper Schmeichel reminds me of, the episode of The Simpsons when Homer has to gain all the weight so he can start claiming disability and working from home. There's a scene where Homer's sitting on the couch and he's watching the telly. He's got his big fat guy cap on and his moo, and he's trying to play with his keyboard, and he's got a broom handle, and he's just like sort of whacking at the keyboard. That is Kasper Schmeichel's approach to goalkeeping these days. I thought that would again have a galvanising effect in it, but as we talked about the roller coaster of this game, the good feeling was sucked out of the stadium 3 minutes later when Patrick Dorgu scored. Got to say, really well taken goal. I mean, his body, he's about 90 degrees on from where he shoots and just opens up his body to pass it into the net at a right angle. Very well taken goal. Atrocious defending from Scotland. Not able to clear their lines. Not able to get a toe in to stop the Danes from progressing the attack. I was really angry at this.
It just kind of bounced around. You're right. It was just really, really poorly defended. And the weird thing was it the 80, what minute was that? The 81st minute?
81st minute.
So I was like, right. So it started to feel like this game was now a carryover from the game on Saturday. So it was just like, this isn't normal. It's all just a load of nonsense, and that's what the Greece game was on Saturday. So I still thought, right, okay, that's deflating. However, there's 10 minutes, there's injury time, and the weird thing about this Scotland team is, and maybe that's part of the criticism of Clarke in terms of playing with the handbrake on and not really going for it. I think Scotland, see when they have to go for it, that's when they're maybe arguably at their best. Certainly in terms of watching, that's when they're at their best. So I was like, right, so we now maybe have 15, turned out it was longer, maybe 15 minutes or so to get another goal. And I still kind of fancied us, just because when we have to go for it, we're actually quite good on the front foot. You don't see it that often.
This will sound crazy, and it will sound like I'm acting smart in hindsight, but I'm not. But see, when it was, I can remember it really clearly, the fourth official holding up the board with the 6 minutes of time added on. I just remember sitting there thinking, I still think we can do this. There's people getting antsy saying, you think that you've not done much in the second half. You've had like one chance and you've scored from it. The board's gone up. You've had John McGuigan had that amazing chance. He did so well to dig it out when the ball got played over to the back post. He controlled it and curled it in, and the perfect view of it. I thought it was going to tuck in between the posts that happened. But even so, I was positive. I thought, we're still going to do this. We're still going to do this. I think it might have been when going into injury time, McGinn might have had an effort that was definitely on target, that was blocked, and there might have been another chance.
Hanley's arse.
Was it by Hanley's arse, was it?
I think so, aye.
But it was at that point I was thinking, we're still going to do this. And then the ball goes into the area. It's big Morten Hjulmand. More on him later, but he fluffs a clearance. It goes straight to Kieran Tierney, and there's you talk about the serendipitous moments. Kieran Tierney coming on at right back would not have been in that position at the pitch had he been put on at left back or left centre back or whatever. He's there. The ball breaks him so kindly, opens up his body, and with a first time shot, spins right through the defence, past Kasper Schmeichel into the net. And Shaughan, I don't know about you, I was mindless when this ball went in.
Yep, I mean, just hysteria everywhere you could look. I think I went to, there was a guy had like earlier in the game had spoken to me about a view for terrace and how he likes it. I just kind of made a beeline for him, so I was kind of hugging him at this point. And obviously everybody has ultimately lost their mind, but it was interesting looking at Kieran Tierney's celebration.
He was the same.
Just seemed really calm. Well, I was going to say he seemed really calm.
I don't think he was calm at all. I think it was a sense of disbelief, a sense of shock that there wasn't, like Scott McTominay, I think he was a bit performative, hey, listen, daddy's here. Listen, kids, it's all right. Big man's got us. I'm thinking that, to go back to Greg Hempel, but that tune, the fat sketch, like Big Jock, the boy that's in the golf club, like that. But I think it was just a sense of like being catatonic when it happened. Just have you ever done something or you've seen something amazing? I remember like going back to see when we played Israel and beat them 3-2 and Scott McTominay scored in injury time. I remember I felt like I was having an outer body experience. I can remember just standing there, folk bear hugging you, grabbing their arms around you, folk like somebody bear hugging you, somebody grabbing your face and screaming at you. And I can remember like it was almost as if I was looking down upon myself while this is going on. I think that might have been what Kieran Tierney experienced. just this moment where he just like, I can't believe when it's done. Probably for him, it's only sunk in when he's woken up this morning what he's done. But I think last night, just that celebration, it looked like he had come back from Vietnam, and had seen some absolute horrors. But what a moment. That'll go down as, something like celebrating the McTominay goal hard, celebrated Kenny McLean's goal hard. But that was the goal that was one of our all-time favourite Scotland goals.
Does it skiff off Shaughan as it goes in?
No, I don't think so. I think he hits it really cleanly.
He hits it cleanly, but I did wonder if it kind of skiffed off whether it was his chest or his face. It might not have made any difference whatsoever, but I did think it maybe helped its way onto the net.
Your body, the feeling while you're trembling at that point, because you just celebrated so hard, and then there's all that nervous energy thinking, Christ, we still got another like 4 minutes of this to go. People screaming at the referee, blow up, blow up, blow up. A wee boy and his dad behind me go to the business club, the wee boy's in tears at Tierney scoring, and then you're just screaming at the referee, blow up, will you blow up? Why is there so much added on time here? Why is there so much added on time? And then Denmark are Denmark are tentatively on the target. Big Morten Hjulman, thank you very much, gives the ball away in such a poor area. And then there's Kenny McLean, and it's brilliant when you watch it with the highlights. And I'm sure what it was like on the television. Liam McLeod doing the commentary, big Stevie Thompson and James McFadden, like schoolboy bullies, goading him, go on, shoot. And Stevie Thompson telling him to shoot twice, and then suddenly the ball sailing through the air. And it's that one, and Shaughan, the guy next to me, I'm grabbing his sleeve. You're almost, it feels like you're going to float away. You're grabbing his sleeve because you want to be tethered to the ground. The ball's floating over the air. Kasper Schmeichel's running after it. He puts a hand out to try and save it. He can't do it. And all of a sudden the ball's into the net. And, fucking fucking hell.
There can't be a more extraordinary way to seal your place in a World Cup than scoring for the halfway line. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. It's just so funny. It's so funny.
It's funny. That's it. I mean, Tierney's goal, you were celebrating, you're nearly greeting. Hanley's goal, McLean's goal, you're just laughing. You're just absolutely laughing. And there's Kenny McLean. We touched on him earlier. I think some people, when they look at McLean, they think we need to phase out guys like McLean and bring in new players. I don't know who these new players are, by the way. Answers in a postcard for that. But there's McLean has turned up with some massive moments for Scotland. Did he hit a penalty? Was it against Israel? It was against Serbia. Hit the winning penalty. Scored that astonishing goal against Norway back in the Euro 2024 qualifying campaign to win that match 2-1. What a moment that was. And then he somehow defies the laws of physics with this goal, because I was talking to Robert Borthwick about this. When you see somebody hit from long range, they cut across it and the ball swerves out the way before coming back in. For instance, I remember Charlie Adam scoring for Stoke against Chelsea, might have been. He certainly scored a goal like that, and he boomed and it swerves out and comes back in. McLean's doesn't. McLean goes really straight and it just sort of curls in at the last minute. Maybe it was Kasper Schmeichel's trying to wave it that added a wee bit of wind onto it and swung it into the net. But it was just an incredible hit, and the celebrations, all the players running off the bench, the manager running in with them, all the backroom staff, the fireworks going off. I don't know, man. I know it's a bit cliched to say, it's the sort of moment I can remember every single second of that game last night. I mean, I knew that you and I were going to be doing this podcast, so you're keeping an eye on it. But just every single moment and facet of that game, it is now seared into the back of my head. I think that when I am in my 80s and I'm taking it to one of those football memory events, that they'll just show me a card of Scott McTominay scoring that overhead kick, and that'll be me talking about it for fucking hours afterwards.
That'll be right, but what was that, 151 years now, the SFA or of Hampden or whatever. I honestly think
1903, I think it was that I'd read.
I think that Tuesday night is as big a game and as memorable a game and as important a game as we'll ever see. And in terms of, like, I've talked about, like, right at the start, I said about the kind of highlights reel of the Scottish national team. Tuesday's game will be very much up there. And it was just, and again, to be there was an incredible experience. I loved every minute, and I have been high as a kite since full time on Tuesday, and it's now Wednesday evening, and I'm still absolutely delighted. It's class. What a feel.
I know that we're very vibes based. I think when you and I get together, we're not the most, or certainly, as I say, I'll speak for myself. I'm not the most analytical of voices. I think that when people will say Craig Taylor, fuck's sake, stick to talking about Brecon, mate. We want to hear Tony Anderson and Joel Sked on one of these ones. But I'm going to sort of bring it down a level and just think, overall, when you try to sort of take a step back from the emotional aspect, did Scotland play well?
I mean, John McGuigan said we were rubbish, so I'll take his word for it. But I think going back to I suppose what I've already mentioned, I thought we were second best. Denmark dominated possession. Did Craig Gordon have too much to do? Not really. I actually think I wouldn't go as far as to say that we played well on Tuesday night, but I think in terms of the group as a whole, I think we've played quite poorly. But I think we've played far poorer than we did on Tuesday evening. And I think the other thing we have to point out is, like, I don't think Denmark, I think we lucked out a wee bit in terms of having them as the number one seed. It could have been a lot worse. But regardless, they still win the vast majority of games that they play. They generally qualify for tournaments, and the fact that we were able to take 4 points from 6 from them, I mean, fair play. I mean, that's brilliant for us.
Yeah, I'd agree. There are teams around Europe that are just used to getting to tournaments. Denmark are one of them, not the flashiest team or the team of the most razzle dazzle. I think that, like I mentioned, the guys I was quite impressed with, I thought Patrick Dorgu had quite a good game going down the left. He's a big, strong player. He's fast. His delivery's quite good. You can see why he's playing at a club like Manchester United. Gustav Isaacson was probably their most dangerous player. I thought anytime he got on the ball, stuff was happening. But other than that, I think we broadly were able to hold our own against them, and that's something to really be proud of and something to build on. But enough about the more analytical stuff. We can think about that when the dust settles. Just after watching all the players celebrating. Normally when I'm at Hampden at the full-time whistle, I go straight back to the business club, because I like to be there when people are coming in. I like to just be the first person there that they see coming in, just say all right, them have a wee chat about how the game had gone. But Megan, who works for the Scottish FA, that was working with me, said, listen, if Scotland win tonight, just stay out there and enjoy it and let it sink in, because everyone else will be doing the same thing, so you could do the same. So it was just letting it sink in. And the players going round the pitch with their t-shirts on, it's brilliant. And then I think John McGuigan, I don't know if it was his own kids or his nephews, were on the pitch as well.
I wasn't sure either, because I wasn't sure if John McGuigan had kids. I wasn't 100% certain, but just that, like the fact that they were on the park and scoring goals was really sweet.
Everyone giving the Bairns a really big shout. I think that's really cool. It was great to see that. And just sticking with John McGuigan, as I was making my way back into the tunnel, got talking to Paul McGuigan, his older brother that plays for Motherwell. We have met Paul McGuigan, was in an episode of Review for the Terror, a View from the Euros a couple of years ago, and I've bumped into Paul a couple of times. Like, what a nice family the McGuinn's are, just like such really, really nice people. And talking to Paul, it was like, we were all just laughing. That's what we could really do. And just saying, it was like, you were saying the same things to everyone you speak. Just, what a game. Best game of football I've ever been to. That was amazing. What about that goal? Incredible. You know, you're trying to bring some sort of analysis, or you want to say something profound, but there's just nothing to say other than that was fucking amazing. What a moment.
It's funny that you talk about McGuigan, and you could probably talk about a few players in the squad, and just in terms of like how relatable they are, and like how much you like them. Yeah, like I think, like in terms of supporting a football team, like sometimes it might feel like it's kind of one way in terms of the football team provides you with enjoyment. Like, it almost feels like selfish. So you want the football team to provide you with joy. But in terms of the Scotland team, like last night, like I was delighted for them. So I was delighted 100%. For myself because I got to watch Scotland win a game of football that got us to World Cup. So I'm delighted for myself. But actually, I'm almost as almost as equally as delighted as I was for the players, because I just think that this is a group of players that are just so likeable, and like Clarke has went through kind of ups and downs during his tenure, and people have doubted him. I just find the squad a hugely likeable bunch of players, and as much as I was very happy from a selfish perspective, I was really delighted for them as well.
No, I completely understand that. I was the same as well. Seeing guys, it's like, we're going back to talking about Kenny McLean. Sometimes when they give the ball away, like, what the fuck's Kenny McLean doing in the park? It's like, how can I stay mad at you, Kenny? How can I stay mad at you? And it's all guys. Likeable's the right word. You know, having not to go on about work that I've done for Scotland, but like last summer, being out in Germany and getting to meet the players and doing work with them, just fundamentally all really nice guys, just all young guys that are just like really talented at playing football and just seem proud as punch to be representing Scotland. No arseholes or anything like that. Just all nice guys, and like you say, like John McGuigan, the most relatable of them all, but all just nice guys, and it's guys that you'd probably be pals with if they weren't incredible football players and just like living in a completely different plane to you. But just an incredible moment. And I don't know about you, Shaughan, I got in last night, it must have been about 11:15, maybe even a wee bit later than that, actually, maybe closer to 11:30. But we were up super early because we were filming A View from the Terrace earlier today, and we had to be in early because of the Scotland game. The defined editorial wanted to be in for another hour to basically help shape it, which was very worthwhile. But I couldn't sleep. I couldn't get to bed. I was in bed. I was thinking like of I'm on Fire by Bruce Springsteen. The lyrics for that were playing through my mind. But instead of sexual tension, it was just thinking about Kieran Tierney's goal over and over again. But just lying in bed, and like you'd put the phone down, you'd pick it up again, you just scroll through social media, you were just liking every single post that comes to Scotland, liking everyone's story that was at Hampden. It was just amazing. And then I woke up before my alarm and I was just back doing the exact same thing. I don't know, it's not doom scrolling. I was delightful scrolling doing that when it came to looking through all the content.
We got in at like back at 11, and it was like, right, are the highlights up yet? So it was only the goals. So, but I think we watched the goals maybe 4 or 5 times over. And then it was like, right, let's see what videos there is. So it literally was just online. So I definitely didn't go to bed till, got in at back 11, but probably didn't go to bed till the back of 1, because it was just, you didn't want to go to your bed. You just want to consume every single scrap of that game. It was just so good.
Aye, I wonder how the players are feeling after that. You're forgetting that we've got big domestic fixtures that are taking place this weekend, and they'll all absolutely be rattling about it. But I suppose that's you get to the top level. You never get too carried away when it's the highs. You never get too down when it's lows, and that's why they're able to be as good as they are. But Shaughan, we have qualified now for USA, Canada, Mexico 2026. I mean, there'll be time for the analysis, be time for when Steve Clarke's putting together his 26-man squad. Coming on to that, just might as well talk about it since it's come up. I can't imagine there'll be many changes from what we've seen there. I can't imagine there'll be many like wild card inclusions. Maybe some players further down the food chain who perhaps got an outside chance of making it into the qualifying squad will get taken because you're allowed to take a bigger group of players with you. But I think this is broadly the same group of players that we'll be taking over to North America with.
I think so as well, for a few reasons. I think Clarke is a manager who is so minded that he just wants to keep this group of players together. I think ultimately, probably not too many other players he could call up, unfortunately. And I think the only changes he could potentially make are players on the periphery. So, like George Hurst, for example, that was called up for this international window. What will he be like between now and the end of the season? Is Tommy Conway, could he replace him, for example? But no, you're right. I think that this, broadly speaking, barring injury, this will be the squad of players that goes to America. Whether that's a good thing or not, I think it probably has to be. Like I think we've mentioned the fact that the in terms of performance-wise, they haven't been great across these half dozen games. Ultimately, it doesn't matter. They've provided us with one of the best nights of our lives, and they deserve to go. But you're right. I don't think he can make too many changes.
Yeah, say, Grant Hanley, we're not taking you. We're taking Stuart Finlay instead. All the best, mate. Cheers. It's the age-old question. I think this is something that we're probably going to find out after the World Cup. I don't know if maybe some of the older players say, right, thank you very much, that's enough for me. Like, like Hanley's 34, might be 35 by the time
34.
34 by the time the World Cup comes in. I'm going to assume that Andy Robertson must be closing in on Kenny Dalglish's cap record. He'll probably He'll probably want to try and break that. But other than that, I think it's Kerry McLean maybe might just say, right, this is top of the mountain for me. Thank you very much. I'll see you later. But the worry is, and I suppose that's for another future podcast, when we end up losing to Latvia in a vital qualifying campaign, when we have to play, just trying to think, Dylan Easton's been called up because of we're trying to bring a bit of razzmatazz, so we go and look at the Wraith Rovers squad and bring him in. Stephen Dobby, that's what everyone wanted. Finally, now's your chance. We can get him in the team as well. I think there'll be a time for that in the future. But you've got tickets, or I say you've got tickets, but you are flying out to Canada, aren't you, over the summer for this?
Yeah, we booked up about 6 weeks ago. We're like, right, well, let's book flights to Canada. So fly out, I think, like 3 or 4 days before the World Cup starts. So I was like, right, well, A, let's hope Scotland qualify. B, let's hope Scotland are based in Canada. If not, then we'll have like 3 or 4 days in Canada, or maybe like a week in Canada. And then whenever Scotland are playing, we'll kind of fly from Canada to there. But no, I was like, I'm sure you were exactly the same. See those 2 weeks at the Euros in Germany, it might have been like 2 of the best weeks. Like, Scotland weren't very good. But regardless, she just been there. She just been in Germany. She just been able to see the games. And see, even if I hadn't had a ticket for the game, but she just been in Germany for the event. It was brilliant. And I'd love to do something similar at the World Cup. So I have a flight booked to Canada. Don't have a flight home because I don't know where I'm going to fly home from. But certainly I've plan A is afoot.
The concern I have about this World Cup is that it's just too big. It's just too great a landmass to properly enjoy. I think that, I'm not, this isn't anything revelatory I'm saying here. I'm sure lots of people might have had similar concerns. But when you think about Germany, perfect size of country to host a large scale tournament. It's a big country, so it can accommodate a large influx of people all at the same time. But it's small enough that you can move around quite easily. And I know there was problems with ice trains and so on, but in theory, it's easy enough to move around quite easily. The flights, it's like a 2-hour flight from the north to the south of the country. Trains that can connect up the large cities where the games are taking place. So you could, in theory, be based at like say Cologne, for instance, and you could still make it to some of the games quite easily. You're based in Canada, and there's games taking place.
I'm not going to train to Guadalajara from Toronto.
I'll be there like when you fly out a week before the game takes place. By the time my Amtrak train gets in or whenever it is, that's the worry. I just think it's, for a lot of people, it's going to be incredibly expensive. I've seen the controversy around the ticket prices with the dynamic tickets coming in. The cost of actually like buying a car parking space costing a couple $100. FIFA was certainly one of the most like corrupt organisations about. They're just the price gouging effectively is what it is they do. So that's the worry there. It's going to be very different to Germany. And on top of that as well, you've got quite a febrile atmosphere under the Donald Trump administration there. I don't think it's going to be a good place for a lot of supporters to go. I've joked about going over there and getting detained by ICE agents and sent to some maximum security prison in El Salvador. Who knows? It might happen. Maybe not to me, but it could happen to someone else. So it feels like that Germany might be the last like good one in terms of like from a fan's perspective.
So the weird thing is, and this probably doesn't sound good on me, but so I agree with everything you say, right? In terms of FIFA being corrupt, I don't think America is a particularly good place to host it. I really wish they weren't. if you go back to the last World Cup in terms of like the fact that it was Qatar, the fact that there was like very much a suggestion that their stadiums were built on slave labour.
Yeah.
There's a massive part of me that thinks, actually, we should be playing no part in this. Like, like you want to qualify for a World Cup in stadiums that's been built by slaves. I'm not entirely sure. We should be trying to qualify for that. But the weird thing is, and this feels like a ridiculous thing to say, that Scotland qualifying for a World Cup almost overrules all of that.
Aye.
So the fact that like America will probably be a terrible host, the fact that Qatar is a dreadful country to host a World Cup, Scotland qualifying almost overruled all of that, and it shouldn't. I totally agree with that. However, everything you've just mentioned, I'm like, well, aye, that's fine. However, I really want to watch Scotland in the next World Cup.
Bring your checkbook. That's all I'm going to say. Making every time you go to tap some, make a boing noise. just as a joke, but then it really does. You really run out of credit. It's an incredible feeling. Incredible feeling. Where does this rank, Shaughan, in terms? I've said that it's the best game of football I've ever been to. I don't think I've seen anything that touches it. Even I think for watching Scotland previously, we mentioned beating Israel 3-2. Beating Spain 2-0 was pretty special. Even thinking that my all-time favourite is Stennis Muir games, none of them come close to this in terms of the drama, the ride that went on, how I felt going into the game, how I felt afterwards, how I'm still feeling now. It's the greatest game of football I've ever been to. How did you find it?
I think best ever. So I think I've said before that I think I pop a lot more for Scotland games than I do for Wraith Rovers, which I know isn't always the case for people. But I think in terms of if I experience a high with Scotland, it's a high, and I think when it's a low, I think I'm desperately low when it comes to Scotland. I think all the time I've been going, it's probably quite slim pickings in terms of good moments for Scotland. But last night was certainly the best moment. I've never been at a game where Scotland's qualified for a World Cup, so that's certainly a kind of bucket list thing ticked off. The nature of how it come about was extraordinary. Loved that. Is that better than, say, Wraith Rovers winning the League Cup? Wraith Rovers beating Rangers in the Challenge Cup final? Wraith Rovers winning like First Division in the 90s? Maybe. That might be my favourite footballing moment of all time, man.
I think so as well. I think so. Just when you were talking there, just in terms of moments, and you could have had it if Scotland had won that match 3-0, goal early on, goal before half time, goal midway through the second half, plain sailing. It'd be brilliant. Don't think we'd be quite as wired as we are, and quite as emotional as we're talking about it. It's just an amazing way to win any game. I don't think you'd want to win every single game like that. You would have a stroke very quickly. Game number 2, the FAST instructions are spinning through your head as you slump in your chair. But but that's what makes these sort of things special. I mean, I mentioned there about the boy who was in tears behind me. I remember saying to him, "You will never see anything like this." Is like fucking big Liam life advice. But I just remember just saying, "You'll never see anything like this again." To be there, to experience it, the noise and the colour and the emotion, the anger that you've got, the frustration, and then that sense of almost reaching this degree of calmness that you feel just going into that extra time. Kieran Tierney's like, just can't believe what he's done. The chips sailing into the net, McTominay's overhead kick. Incredible.
Yeah, I agreed. I mean,
that wasn't a tee up for you to say. I'm not sure if there's anything. Is there anything else, Shaughan, you want to say about Scotland qualifying for the World Cup?
I think we've covered absolutely everything.
No, something, it was a privilege to get asked to appear on this show, privilege to get to host it with you, and a privilege to share our thoughts with the listeners. Now, if you liked what you have heard, please think about giving our Patreon a go. There are thousands of hours of brilliant podcasts on there, and you can unlock them for as little as £2 per month. Please do watch A View from the Terraces on the iPlayer from midday on Friday, and it's on the BBC Scotland channel at 10:30pm on Friday night. Shaughan, once again, thank you very much.
No, thank you.
And the listener, enjoy your football. And just like every single person at Hampden last night, every single person watching in the pubs, in their homes with their friends, anyone around the world who watched the game, I just felt their heart burst open when those goals went in at the death to send us to our first World Cup since 1998. Please do so respectfully. Thank you.